Can I have a fork there, please? A fork, please?
Did you use it down on the table?
I think
So what's the, you still hear me? So what's the message that we can draw out of this whole evening, Rosh, Kislev? I can't be married much more because I'm very weary, but what we can say is what it's not stum in the whole Sikha. It's not stum that the Rebbe brings this whole marshal of somebody waking up. And the killer, the whole atzmias, and the whole Ika is hidden in that rigor that you wake up. And everything which follows from that is like Giluim. You know, it's all icing on the cake, even way down there, it's like a level already. But the etzem matzias, when you wake up, that's what you are, be'etzem, that's the etzem on matzias. And that's got to be connected with the Ika. That has to be immediately linked. And like he calls it avir, the Indian from avir.
Excuse me.
What he calls avir, the Indian from avir, Melech HaMashiach. So for now we see that we can draw a parallel and a marshal that each of us, if he looks at his life as to what's been up till now, he's been asleep. But it's all been good and it's all been fine and everything, but like every the Amitius, Nakuda, Amitius and Nakuda Atzmias, he's been asleep. So now he's woken up. So ask yourself the question, where does that etzem Amatiyah that he now feels when he wakes up, where does that go? What does he do? Because that's the very essence of everything. That's the essence of him. And if he wants, it can be connected with the essence of Hashem. Because it's got the simplicity of a small child. So it's got all the might. And what does he have to... What does he have to realize at that moment where he's holding? So he has to realize that everything he's done up till now, he's been asleep. Even though he may have done a lot of good things, and he may have been Mekayim mitzvahs, and he may have done all sorts of good Sachen, of a Lepuyo, he's been asleep. Now, Rosh Hodesh Kislev is the moment where somebody presses a pin into his, and wakes him up. Yeah. He gets up, all of a sudden, he wakes up, and he wakes up into what? What is now going to be the mood? What's going to be the Ika where his whole being is going to be put? The Rabbi indicates to us that you got to know where is the Nakuda. Because there's an old saying by the Mashpiyim, everybody's got the Nakuda, everybody has it. Everybody has the Etzem Nakuda, and that's his Etzem Matiyah. The question is, where does that go? And so, if we compare the Matzah today, which is L'chol HaPoches, I think understood by everybody that it's not a good Matzah. In other words, that the world is not earning from the situation of Mashiach not being here. If it was beautiful from all sides, everything was, perfection laid on, then it might be able to be shy to say that in some level we can put up with the situation of Moshe not being here. Like the Rabbi said once, that if we don't really work to bring Moshe the way he wants us, then eventually Moshe will be Pekuach Nefesh. It'll eventually become a situation of, a question of life and death. And so, chas v'sholom, that we shouldn't come to that point, even though I think that we're approaching, not all that terribly far from it. So the question is that we got to get off our excuse me and do something. And so the Rabbi points out in the Sikha, it's not you have to, learn the whole Zera Kodesh Baal Peh or something, or, you have to learn the whole Hemshech Samavov, or yes. Love Dafkiv. What you got to do is, it's how you see things and how you live, and what is your etzem anakuda. If your etzem anakuda is Moshiach, then things will happen. And things will come your way in a way that will bring closer. And that's why the Rebbe says that if there's people who need in their house, they haven't got to make Hanukkah, really freilich Hanukkah, and you come along and help them, well, that's the Inyan for Moshiach. That's the Nakudas of Moshiach. The Inyan of, how do you call it, the Etzem, being Koyel Yamei Chayecho, all the days. And so, Koyel Yamei Chayecho is not just a pshat, the day, but it means the whole life of that day. The minute by minute you're living, which means that minute by minute you've got to be aiming for something. And not just, how do you call it, living the day, but the whole day's got to be aiming someplace. If the whole day is aiming towards Mashiach, then there's hope. Then it can be the end from Kabbalah's B'nai Mashiach. But if the Etzem Nakuda, which is expressed when you wake up, is not being put into the right Nakuda Amit of Hashem, then it's like what they call in the Hebrew Lidroch Al Mayim. It's like how do you call it?
Treading water. Treading water. Say in English, no?
Huh?
A treadmill.
Yeah, but there's an army expression, how do you call it?
Oh,
Huh?
yeah. The rats.
Yeah, when you go left, right, so you think you're going forward, but you're really treading on water. Lidroch al mayim, they call it in modern Hebrew. It means that you're really just treading in the same place. But if the nakuda is in the right direction, and your nakuda atzmius is in Moshiach, and your etzim nakuda wakes up to aviroi shel Moshiach, to the air of Moshiach, then Be'ez Hashem, you're going in the right way. So what we're going to do at a night like this, which is Rosh Chodesh Kislev, we're going to realize what the Rabbi was must be in the Sikha, that we've been asleep. Each and every one of us has been asleep. He may think he's been a big, great Matthias, and maybe in some ways he has been, but he's been asleep, like every the emes direction. And the emes Indian of how to see what is really happening. And but Chesed, the Baragam, came along the Rabbi, and he revealed to us what is the emes and Nakuda, and where is the etzem and Nakuda today. Avamila, Hashem Shalom, that we could wake up, and even before we say Moed Ani, we're going to get cracking. So if you're a mishpet and you really want to be one, then you can say Yechi Adinenu. I don't have any problem with it. That's one of them. If you're still a bit of a schlepper, so you'll think about Moshiach, and you'll think that, today is the day, Hayom Yom. Today is the day I'm really going to get cracking. And that's what Rosh Chodesh is all about. Lefi the Sikha. That's what Rosh Chodesh is all about. So I'm going to say L'chaim, and I'll tell you something that I saw when I was there by the Rebbe, when the whole thing happened. I'll tell you something the Rebbe said, but from that we can come to understand what is this whole idea of putting your etzem in the right place and mamere getting moving. And it could be modestly, but moving. And moving in the right direction. So L'chaim. L'chaim. L'chaim.
They have a full bowl of it.
Enjoy. Anybody wants to call up?
So the Rebbe had a heart attack on Shmini Atzeres by night, not Shivnastar, Shmini Atzeres. And I won't go now into all the details that happened and everything, all the amazing things, Ramayla Me'ateva, that happened with the Rebbe, even though he underwent a very severe heart attack.
Tillis was there.
Huh?
Rockville Tillis was there that night.
I was
Good.
I made that clear before I said that I was there. Shamila, I saw it with my eyes, everything that happened. And that would take hours and hours and hours to describe all of that. And I just don't have the ability right now to do that. However, what happened was that the Rabbi had a heart attack in two stages. First of all, we had the beginning of the whole heart attack downstairs, with the whole crowd. And he fell into his chair and went all pale, and it was very tremendously upsetting. But then the Rebbe went miraculously up the stairs and the whole thing, and he went to the sukkah and he made $1 and everything. It just, just completely l'mayla me'ateva. And then he said that he wants to be alone for a while. Even to the Rebbe, he said he wants to be alone. And he went from the sukkah into his office. Now at this stage they'd already started bringing doctors because they realized that something was going on. But nonetheless, nobody wanted to interfere. The Rebbe said he wants to be alone. So everybody was mechavet that. But people were standing around and they would bring in medical equipment and all sorts of things. So the Rebbe went into his room and he was there for quite a while. I forget exactly how long, maybe an hour and a half. The Rebbe was in his room alone. And the Rebbetzin and the others were outside in the building of somebody waiting to see what was going to happen. So what happened was that the Rebbe all of a sudden felt that something wasn't right, and in effect he was getting the second round. They called the main heart attack began to occur. And that is very, very critical, and it's very dangerous. And so the Rebbe sensed that he was in a very serious situation, but knowing as he does some of the klalei harefuah, the Rebbe massaged himself. The Rebbe actually massaged himself very heavily around the heart. At the same time, when he was doing that, he opened the door and he called for help. And he called, so of course the whole world came running, and they realized that the situation was very grave. And that began the whole main, what ended in Rosh Kislev when the Rebbe actually left 770. And he went home. So from then on until Rosh Chodesh Kislev, the Rebbe was in the office. And he was under continuous treatment the whole time from the doctor. And they brought in Dr. Weiss, especially from Chicago. And he came in by helicopter. And he arrived in a helicopter early in the morning, Shmini Atzeres by day, after this whole thing had happened. I was there on the street outside 720. I saw the helicopter hovering around that was looking for a place where to go down. Yeah. So it didn't come down in Eastern Parkway. It found some courtyard or some backyard or something a bit further down, and that's where they actually came down. Yeah, and then they brought Dr. Weiss in a car very swiftly. And I saw him get out of the car and go in. He was a young fellow in those days. And he went in. From then on, everything began like a different pattern. So that was Shmini Atzeres, and then Simchas Torah by night, everything was quiet, and they had everything quieted down, and the whole main entrance to 770 was fenced off with these big boards. You couldn't walk in the door. You couldn't walk in the main door of 770. It wasn't shut. Plus, the whole garden part of 770 was also palisaded off. However, what happened was that the Rebbe, even though they gave him pills to make him sleep, the Rebbe woke up after much earlier than what would have been expected when somebody had taken these pills. They should have put him in sleep for 9 hours or 10 hours, or something like that. And he, after about 4 hours, he woke up, and he was quite awake and clear. And he spoke to the doctors, and he said that he wants to send a message down to the Hasidim. So they said, but, what Hasidim? So the Rebbe said, maybe you could tell me why is it so quiet? Why is everything quiet? So they said, because you're in a very dangerous situation. You've got to have quiet. So the Rebbe said, I'm sorry, you got the wrong idea. That Davki, if I'll hear all the Chassidim and I'll hear all the dancing, then the whole place will, how to go shudder with the noise and the music and the dancing and the singing, then I'll feel better, I promise you. So it took quite a while, but in the end, the message got down, and so all the Chassidim started dancing, just like an ordinary Simchas Torah, by night, of absolutely crazy. you know, the dancing just went really, and we're talking about thousands of people, and everybody shouted in a loud voice, the Rabbi is gesund. That's how they sing the niggun. There's a niggun which says, Zol Sentai Nigula, Zol Sentai Nigula. So everybody sang, they all sang, the Rabbi is gesund, the Rabbi is gesund, the Rabbi is gesund, Moshiach Shenkom. For hours and hours they just say this belief pesach without interruption for a moment, and it just kept going and going and going. So it was pandemonium, and the doctors were tremendously concerned that all this noise and all the vibration and everything is very bad for the Rebbe. So they said, listen, please give an order that we should stop all this. You know? It's not good for you. So the Rebbe said he's very sorry, but he's not going to give any such order. On the contrary, he feels a lot better now that he hears all that noise. So that's just it. So around about sometime in the early morning, I've forgotten exactly what hour it was, the Rebbe sent down a message with Label Gurnet. So Label Gurnet came down in 770, even though it was packed with thousands of people, and they're all dancing, and they're all going absolutely crazy, and metal ding. Nonetheless, Label Gurnet came in, and he started waving, you know, and eventually he got attention, you know, people started, yeah. So he says he has a message from the Rebbe. So he gets up on like a sort of a platform where the Rabbi Farbrengen, you know, up there, and he starts going like this, and everybody should be quiet. After a few minutes, somehow or another, they managed to get all these thousands of people to be quiet, you know. And so what was the message? It was really quite a complex message, and I don't know the quote to give it all over right now, but what I'm going to do is give you over the point. So what was the nakuda of the message? So the Rebbe says that it's brought down. The Rebbe said in the message that it's brought down in Siddur. There are two ways that we can understand the tzimtzum, origin, the big tzimtzum that occurred. And the Rebbe said one way we can understand it is that the Eibusha made a tzimtzum and he caused the powers of gevura and limitation to come into being, and then he brought back light, but the light went through all the limiting powers. That's one way of understanding. He said another way of understanding is that the tzimtzum, in its very essence, it makes a situation of like going against Hashem's revelation. Like Hashem had, up until then, he had only his holy light, was in revelation. The tzimtzum, as it were, goes against that. So he said the tzimtzum going against, well, that demands that the light should come. And not that the tzimtzum and the reappearance of the light are two separate things, but the tzimtzum demands that the light come. In other words, at the very essence of what happens through tzimtzum is that you cause a tremendous desire in the Dover HaMatzumta, which is the divine light, to reappear. That it's adequate. Like a contrast makes the other thing come more essential. And this was a whole new idea, and the Rebbe said that it's written in Siddur, and the Rebbe said he didn't have time to draw together all the Ma'arim Mekaymes, because he was very ill, critically ill. He said, but no doubt there'll be certain members of the congregation who will be able to show you where these things are written. So I remember Yoel Khan was standing there, and everybody turned in the direction of Yoel Khan and said, no, you know, where are these things, what are the Ma'arim Mekaymes? And so Yoel was trying to remember, he was looking up like this. Anyway, he didn't come up with anything clear about the second one. The first one is easy to find, but the second one, so the Rebbe said that's what's happened at this moment, is that there's a tzimtzum. That's what's happened. He had a heart attack is a tzimtzum. But he said the tzimtzum is going to be a contrast, and that's going to demand a new light. It's going to demand a whole new revelation. So the Rebbe said that from this moment, And further, there's going to be a lot more Lubavitch than what there's been up to now. Yeah. And the Rabbi said it's going to be expressed in all the Aveda of the Chassidim and the Lubavitch, Mia Rega Zevahala, everything's going to be incomparably more alive. Dafki, because this has happened, that's going to bring the light. That's going to attract light. So this is a most amazing concept. And I reckon that I know where it was written, where it's written in Siddur, and I think I know what the Rabbi was referring to. Even though Yokan didn't, I'm not saying I'm bigger than Yokan, Chas v'shalom, he's the big masker of Lubavitch. I'm just saying that I think I do know what. Anyway, but without us going into that, all of a sudden, after Leil Grona said this, if what they've been doing up to then was illegal, it was like child's play to what happened after. Where people are jumping and shouting, dancing, and mamish at the tops of their voices, and all their koyach and everything. And the Rebbe's in a critical situation up in his room, and that's what's happening. So the message that I want to get over is that the Rebbe says that a thing which looked like a symptom and a limitation is only a reason to give more incomparably than what you've done up to now. Not that you should give in to that symptom. No, you should see that symptom as a new power to create a greater light than what's been before. And therefore the light that came, according to that shitta, the light that came afterwards wasn't just a lesser light than what had been there before, but it's a much greater light in its very essence. So that's a very profound inyan, which means that if in our lives we meet up with something, and it looks as this is a symptom of hadikot, it's limiting and it's bringing about and it's causing me tsar, and it's causing me problems and everything. We have to try and be great siddim of the river. We have to try and realize that these things were sent to us that we should draw more light. And through that we should not only overcome, but we should produce, at least qualitatively, incomparably more than what we've done up to now. And that's the message of Rosh Chodesh. The message of Rosh Chodesh, not just that we're going to be born from the new and everything, but even if it looks that I can find it quite justifiably, that I have problems in life, and these problems are limiting me and they cause me difficulty, and so what do you want of me? So the answer to that is that, on the contrary, Davki, because of the problems, that's why you've got to give incomparably better. Davki, because the tzimtzum, that draws out a new light altogether. That's the purpose of the tzimtzum, which means that Hashem doesn't send anything that it should be negative in its own right. And there's nothing that comes that doesn't really mean a much bigger result, and a much bigger and more incomparable revelation after that. Okay, guys. So I see it's bedtime story. So anyway, I'm going home anyway.
Rabbi Marzell is coming.
So he's coming.
Okay, just know. He said he was going to. He said it was still going on.